This videotape is part of the Video Oral History Project of the Colony Public Library of the City of the Colony, Texas. This interview is with Cathy Bock of 5425 Baker Drive, the Colony, Texas. Cathy Bock is currently Secretary at Morton Realty in Plano. This interview is taking place at 777 East 15th Street, Plano, Texas, on Friday, May 3rd, 1985, at approximately 11 a.m. My name is Catherine Jagoe. I'm an interviewer for the Colony Public Library Video Oral History Project. Cathy, would you state your name and tell us something about your background, such as where and when you were born, where you grew up, places you've lived, that kind of information?
Okay. My name is Cathy Bock, and I was born in New Orleans. I lived there most of my life except for the past 11 years, 2 of those years in Indianapolis, and we moved down here in 1976 to Garland for 3 months and then moved into the colony. And I'm Italian and Irish and proud of it. What else can I say about my background?
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your educational background, any specialized training that you might have had, that kind of information?
The majority of my background is secretarial training. I have had 2 years of college, but the majority of my courses were in secretarial or administrative work, and that's been the majority of my background is in that type of area. I've always done secretarial work in New Orleans, and here I have a very background. I worked for a medical school for 6 years, insurance companies, and Fox and Jacobs for 2 years, and then I've been here almost a year. So.
Now we'd like you to tell us a little bit about your family. Are you married? Do you have children? Tell us their names, any information of that type.
I am not married. I'm divorced, have been for 5 years, and I have just one son. He's 6 years old, excuse me. I always forget that. 6 years old. His name is Wesley, and he's very active in the community, just as I am active in the community. He plays t-ball and soccer and takes dancing, and that's my family here in the colony. The rest of my family is still in New Orleans.
Now we'd like to know a little bit about why you chose the colony as a place to live, and then we'll go from there as to how you became active in the community affairs in the colony.
When we moved to Dallas, we were looking for a location that we really didn't have a specific location in mind, but a realtor had brought us out to the colony. We liked the affordable housing. We had looked at the same houses in Richardson and Plano and found that the colony was much nicer. The lake was a big attraction to us because we are water skiers, and also the fact that we were close to Dallas, yet not so close that it would, at that time there were only 3,500 people, and we looked upon the colony as a small town. It's grown quite a bit since then, but that was the main attraction, the type of house that we could get for the type of money that they were asking. So that was our main reason for moving to the colony.
You particularly have served in a variety of organizations within the colony itself. Could you sort of run down the list for us, tell us what you were active with, what your position was, and an approximate time period on that?
I first became involved in the colony when we became involved in the Homeowners Association, which was in 1976, late 76, when we moved into the colony. And I worked on a civil defense committee for them. And when the city incorporated in 77, they liked the work that I had done on the civil defense committee, so they asked me to serve on the first planning and zoning commission when the city incorporated. And I was on that for approximately 4 or 5 months, and then one of the first city councilmen was transferred, and so they asked me to fill his term until April of 78, at which time I did that. And then I went back to planning and zoning and became chairman for a year and a half. I was active during that time in doing the comprehensive zoning ordinance and working on the master land plan with Strickland Rollins. Since that time, I've been on the home rule committee that study the incorporation changing from general law to home rule. I've been active on the goals committee, which was revamping the colony's long-term goals and short-term objectives for the city. I've been active in Epsilon Sigma Alpha for 7.5 years, which is a service sorority in the colony. It's international. And I've also been active in the Colony Church of Christ for 4.5 years. I've played softball in the community. I'm now going to be on the board of directors of the community theater group. I'm really excited about that.
Well, you've kept very busy while you've been residing in the colony. What prompted you to get involved in community affairs and particularly in the Homeowners Association?
Well, I think the reason was probably twofold. First of all, we know no one in Texas, no one in the Dallas area, and so we decided it would be a good way to meet people. But also, we wanted to become involved in the community, and it was a challenge to be in a new community where there was so many new things going on and so many new people moving in, and we thought it would be a good opportunity to become involved in something that we thought would be new and exciting. So that's really what prompted us to come. Although my ex-husband did not become as involved as I did.
You have referred to your husband several times. Could you just state what his name was for the record?
I love this. His name is Joan Bock, and he still lives in the colony also.
Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about the origin of the Homeowners Association, how it came to be and how it evolved, and what its principal concerns were in the early days?
Well, actually, I got into the Homeowners Association towards the end, but as I understand it, I believe that Fox and Jacobs, through Chuck Perryman, had encouraged the homeowners to form the association to make the citizens more aware of what was going on in the community. And I believe that's really how it got its origin, from Chuck Perryman and Fox and Jacobs trying to initiate the citizens to be concerned about what was going on in their community. But I didn't join till the very end, right before they incorporated into a city, and at which time the Homeowners Association didn't function as much anymore.
Now we'd like to talk a little about the Home Rule Committee that you served on, how it was formed, how were the committee members selected, and some of the significant events that took place or significant topics of discussion that took place at the meetings.
As I recall, I believe the members were selected by people, either volunteers or people who had been active in the community, being asked to serve on the committee by the mayor and city council. And as I recall, I'm not really sure that I remember exactly how they were selected, but I believe that's how. I think one of our main objectives was just to look at the difference between how it would help or hurt the city to go from a general law city to a home rule and all the technicalities of doing that. I think our main objective was just to be sure that we were going into something better, and we just looked at the differences that it would matter, such as elections and things like that. I think that was really our main objective, and to lay some foundation for the Home Rule Charter Commission when they were established.
Now, if you would, tell us a little bit about the decision that was made to incorporate. Was there significant opposition? Did the colony consider joining other towns in the area? And what do you feel was Fox and Jacobs' position on incorporation?
I believe at the time that the city started growing so rapidly, the city council did approach Frisco about possibly having them annex us into their city limits. At that time, Frisco was very opposed to that because they felt it would not help their tax rate at all. So at that time, Dave Fox really encouraged the people of the colony. I think he's always been a really big influence on the colony. I think that he encouraged the people to incorporate. He felt it would be good. And in a way, I think it was a challenge for him, too, because it was something he'd never done, to take a subdivision and turn it into a city. So I think that Fox and Jacobs, Dave Fox and Ron Walden really were very helpful in getting all the incorporation off the ground, getting the master land plan drawn up, and working with any volunteers. We started out as a group that didn't know anything about zoning, and if it had not been for the help of Fox and Jacobs and Strickland Rollins, we would have never probably gotten it off the ground. So I think they were very encouraging to everyone involved.
Was there opposition?
Not, I think, a small amount. I think there were a lot of people that felt also like Frisco that it would raise their tax rate. But as I recall, there wasn't much opposition at all to it. They felt it would be a betterment for the city and for all the citizens.
Okay, now let's talk about your work on the Planning and Zoning Commission. First of all, how were you selected to serve? Had you expressed an interest? Had you volunteered? Or did someone suggest your name? How did you come to be chosen to serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission?
Because of the work I'd done on the Civil Defense Committee as the chairman, they felt that I had very good organizational skills and felt that I'd be beneficial to them. And it was just starting out, and we were all starting out at the same level. Not many of us knew anything about zoning, but I guess they felt that I didn't know much about zoning, but if I wanted to know something, I'd go find someone who could help me with it. And so I really enjoy that. I still enjoy anything to do with zoning, and I work with that now in my job a little bit, and so it's very interesting to me to be able to get paid now for doing something I did free then. But it's I enjoyed the zoning. We had lots of battles within the P&Z as far as what kind of zoning ordinance we should have, but it was very interesting to me, and I enjoyed it a great deal.
Can you elaborate a little bit on the significant issues that took place in planning and zoning, some of the conflicts that occurred?
Certainly. I think the biggest issue was probably density. What we did was take the comprehensive zoning ordinance from several different cities, and the foundation for the colony zoning ordinance was from the Dallas zoning ordinance. And of course, Dallas has perhaps 10 single-family classifications and 10 multifamily, and we were a rather mixed group of people, and there were some people that were developers on P&Z who felt that we should have higher density. And I, on the other hand, at that time was an idealist and felt that perhaps we should have lower density. But I think we never had arguments. We just had friendly discussions, and I think in the end that was the main thing, and just where retail should go and just the ins and out of a zoning ordinance. I think the zoning ordinance has been a good foundation for the colony, although I know it's been changed. I thought at that time it was a good document, and we worked extremely hard on it to make it effective.
Could you define the concepts of low density and high density just a little bit?
Low density would be less houses per acre, and higher density would be apartments, townhouses, where you get, say, 8 units to the acre rather than 2 units to the acre. I think when we moved to Texas, we thought land everywhere, and so high density seemed so terrible to us, and I guess I've changed my mind since then. I feel there's a need for it, but I think that was our main objective then, that some people felt that the higher the density it would be better, and there were others of us, and we sort of came to a happy medium in the middle about the density issue.
Can you name some of the other individuals that were serving on planning and zoning when you were?
Yes, Art Welty and Harry Hunsaker, who I know you've interviewed, and I'm trying to think who else. It's been such a long time. We had a great middleman with Frank Graham, who was with Fox and Jacobs, who worked with us very closely. Mike Mansfield was on planning and zoning, and Bob Brown. And we were really, I thought, a well-blended group of people. We had a little bit of everything from everywhere, so I thought we had a good group.
You mentioned specifically the master land plan. Can you talk more about that plan and what it was and how it was conceived?
Well, when the city decided to incorporate, it was decided that that a comprehensive master land plan should be drawn up to define where single-family residence would be, where multifamily, any retail, churches, anything like that. And so Fox and Jacobs contracted with Strickland Rollins, who is a land planner in Arlington, to work with the city officials and the planning and zoning members to sit down and work out a concept on what the colony would look like in the next 5 to 10 years. And so we had a lot of meetings and worked out where everyone felt the single-family residence should be, looking at multifamily and all the other retail areas within the colony where shopping centers should be. And it gave us an overall view of what what the colony would look like, and also gave, I think, some goals on where we wanted to go from here, what kind of city we wanted. And I think that Strickland Rollins, it's since been revised, but they did a really good job on it, and they were very cooperative, dealing with people who didn't know that much about planning and zoning or master land plans, but they gathered a lot of resources for us and helped us make a lot of decisions that are, I think, affecting the city today.
Were you active at the time that the issue came up regarding the quality of homes that were being built, the number of square feet per unit, and the type of materials used to build them? I know that this was an issue at one point in the earlier stages, not at the very beginning, but a few years down the road, that there was a lot of discussion in regard to that. Were you involved in planning and zoning at that time? No. Were you involved in any office that would have discussed that? Okay. Would you like to comment on that issue? No. Oh, okay. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about your time on the City Council. I'd like to know the name of the individual that you replaced and how you particularly were the one selected to fill that term.
I replaced Dick Weaver, who moved to North Carolina. He was transferred to North Carolina, and the way I was chosen was just through a process of elimination, I guess, really. I think they looked at 2 or 3 different people who they felt would be qualified to do it, and then it just came down to a matter of a council vote as to who they felt would best do the job. And so I was selected. I was very surprised.
Did you ever make a decision to go ahead and actually run for office for the City Council?
No, I didn't. Because of the time, it really entails a lot of time, even more so now, I know, but even back then it demanded a lot, and working full-time and having a family, it just didn't allow me the time that I needed to do that.
What were some of the major issues that came before the council while you were serving, and what was your position in regard to those issues?
Well, there were several issues, zoning issues mostly. Fox and Jacobs had several things, and then we had a gentleman who was trying to rezone some land. Probably the most controversial was a gentleman who was trying to rezone the land on Blair Oaks, and there really weren't that many controversies. I think I came in at a time where the city really hadn't gotten off its feet, and the citizens weren't united like they are today on certain issues, recreational centers and things like that. So I can't really recall that I can say that there were any really major issues. I was prior to the tax for vote. I was prior to the recreational center. So we really had a lot, but I think that most of our issues were just the formation of the city and how services should be set up. We did have the controversy of the police chief getting fired, and but other than that, I can't say that I really know that there were any particular issues that were brought forth at that time.
Would you comment further on the issue of the police chief firing and what you recall as the events that took place and what your particular position was in regard to that? I'm also curious about how you felt in attending some of those meetings. Did you feel secure, insecure, etc.?
Well, I'm an insecure person, so I felt insecure. I can tell you the answer to that. But I think the main problem with the police chief was that there were too many cooks in the kitchen or too many personalities involved, and there were a lot of personality clashes, and I really feel that was the reason for it. I have no other opinion about it because I really don't know all the behind-the-scenes things that went on. There's a lot of, when you're working in a small town, I think that sometimes, it's not being critical, but you work with people who have small minds sometimes, and that is always a problem. But I think it was handled as best as could be, but like I said, I think there were too many personalities involved and people just clashing with each other over it.
Were there times when you were serving on the council that you had the feeling you wish you'd never gotten involved here, or did you have strong enough feelings that you felt it was important that you had the opportunity to vote in these issues?
Well, mixed emotions. Half the time I wish I'd never gotten involved, and the other half I was excited about it. It was a challenge to me because I'd never been involved in a community. I've always lived in a large city where you never had the opportunity to become involved, and so this was such a challenge to me to be in the colony, to be able to be a city councilman and be involved in all the things that were forming this city. So it was really exciting to me, and I think my excitement outweighed my anxiety about being there.
Now I'm going to ask some sort of sociological questions. Do you feel that the fact that you're a woman was a positive or negative factor for you being in a leadership position?
I don't feel it was either. I mean, I don't feel that they judge me. I don't ever have never felt in the colony that anyone's judged me because I'm a woman one way or the other, positive or negative. The only time I've ever been treated negatively was when I was chairman of planning and zoning, and there was a gentleman trying to have some land rezoned, and he couldn't quite comprehend that there would be a woman as chairman of planning and zoning. But other than that, I have had no bad feelings at all that because I'm a woman I've been treated differently.
Do you feel that because the colony is a new town with no established old guard, that it is easier for a woman to become a leader in that instance?
I think the opportunity's there. I think the colony is an open town where people take you for your worth rather than your sex, and I think that's important. I think that because the colony is so small, the citizens don't always look at whether you're man or female, male or female. They just look at the fact that you're qualified to do the job. I think there's still a lot of male chauvinism in the colony as far as sports are involved. Women coaches, the men kind of bristle when that happens. But other than that, I don't really feel it's a major problem in the community.
Before I move on to a couple of other things, I would like to know if you have any other comments that you want to make in regard either to your service on planning and zoning or on the city council.
Not really. It was a very exciting time for me. It was a educational time for me. I always like to broaden my horizons, and I think I've really grown in the 9 years that I've lived in the colony. I've learned a lot about zoning. I've learned a lot about real estate, and I learned a lot about people, and it's been very exciting to me and very interesting, and I've enjoyed it an awful lot.
I believe that you were one of the individuals that helped to organize the Friends of the Library. Is that correct? No? Then I have the wrong information there. I'm sorry. What do you see for the future of the colony? Will you particularly continue to be involved in community affairs, do you think? And what direction will the colony be moving in the future? What will be some of the issues of the future?
I see the colony right now on the brink of something really big. I think with EDS coming in down the road and Frito-Lay, IBM owning the land there and hopefully one day going to do something with it, I see that the colony's right now on the threshold of something really exciting. I think it's going to grow, it's going to prosper. I think some of the issues will be industrial land because there isn't much in the colony, trying to get some industry to come in to broaden the tax base. I feel like Fox and Jacobs has really worked with the city. I'm very pro Fox and Jacobs. I think that they have cooperated with the city and been really great to them and tried to help us along the way. And when we stumbled, they were there to pick us up, particularly Dave Fox, I think, and Ron Walden. I think the colony is going to be a great city to live in, and I plan on staying involved probably as long as my son is active in everything, and I stay active in the community. I enjoy being active. I enjoy being involved in the community. I enjoy the people contact, and I'm real excited about all the things that are going to happen out there in the next 5 years.
Let's talk a little bit about your service organization, Epsilon Sigma Alpha. I believe that these service organizations are fairly active within the colony. Could you tell us a little bit about how those begin to grow and what their role has been in the colony?
Epsilon Sigma Alpha is a philanthropic organization, and our international charity is St. Jude's Hospital in Memphis, Children's Hospital in Memphis. And each year we hold some type of money-making project. We've really been involved in the community, although we're rather the low-key sorority in the colony. Beta Sigma has, I believe, 3 or 4 chapters. We're a fairly small group of people, but we get involved in such things as we have a sock and mitten tree each year for the Denton State School. We sponsor the community blood drive each year for the colony, and then we always have a Ways and Means project for St. Jude's Hospital. Epsilon Sigma Alpha has built a wing onto St. Jude's Hospital that is named after them. They've contributed almost $5 million to St. Jude's Hospital for all the chapters all over the world. And so we're real proud of it, and we think it's a fairly good organization, but it's also a good social thing. We have I have a lot of dear friends in the sorority, and we get along very, very well, considering we're all women. It's sometimes hard to think about that, but I enjoy it an awful lot, and I'm glad that I've been active. I've grown a lot through ESA.
You made the decision at one time to go to work for Fox and Jacobs. What were your motivations there?
Money. No. Well, it just so happened that at the time that I was looking for a job, I had contacted Ron Walden to talk to him about working with the goals committee that I was on for the city, and it just so happened that he happened to be looking for a secretary at that time, and so I went to work for him, and I worked for him about a year and a half. And then he came to work for Morton Realty, came in partnership with Morton Realty, and then I came over last June to work for him. So I enjoyed my time at Fox and Jacobs. It was very interesting, and I enjoyed the people, but I'm glad to be here.
Are there any other concerns that you have that you'd like to take this opportunity to discuss and make us aware of? I'm sure our research has not uncovered every issue involving Cathy Bock, so we want to not miss anything that's really significant.
I don't really think there's anything significant about Cathy Bock. She just is a volunteer. She can't say no. That's her problem. She can't say no. But I feel like the 9 years I've lived in the colony, I've grown so much, and I've met so many nice people. And I have enjoyed all my involvement. Sometimes it seems like I was going to pull my hair out and give it all up, but I've enjoyed it. I enjoy being involved. I enjoy the people. I enjoy the challenge of being involved in it. I think that I've learned so much the past 9 years, and I hope to learn a lot more, hopefully, in the next 9 years.
Thank you, Cathy. We really appreciate your participating in the project today. Thank you. No, that wasn't horrible, was it?
I'll tell you after I see the tape.